seen a little bit of, but there is a twist.
Yeah, have to say, when I was looking over the team sheet, you're like, okay, this is pretty normal. And then you're like, wait, is that Sneasel or Sneasler? And then you see it's Sneasel, and you're like, okay, it's not running Dire Claw. So it's actually really interesting, right? Because Sneasel does get access to an ability that Sneasler does not, which is Inner Focus, right? And it has a different speed tier as well. So that's going to change the interactions, obviously, on the field. Sneasel is a little bit slower, right? So maybe it will underspeed certain other Pokemon on the other team. I think also too, something to point out here is that for the most part the structure is pretty standard besides the Sneasel. So you're not seeing anything like too crazy team wise here besides the Sneasel, and I'm interested to see how that changes the interaction between the teams.
Yeah, and I really love the idea with the Sneasel and the Inner Focus ability because, some Sneaslers, usually they do run Terra Stellar. Some of them maybe Terra Ghost to, maybe threaten those fake out potential Pokemon from the opponent a little bit. But with Inner Focus, you don't have to fear that fake out ever. And yeah, as a Sneasel, you're probably still faster than a lot of, slower Pokemon and can get that coaching on Pokemon like, the Rillaboom, the Dondozo, Kingambit, maybe even Dragapult are all Pokemon that would appreciate an attack and a defense boost. And yeah, I would also want to, note some of Zhang Deicheng's accomplishments here. 2014, Thailand national top 4, Thailand regional side event champion, a Thailand national top 4 in 2023 as well, and 2022 World Cup of VGC champion.
Yeah, I mean, all great achievements, right? Obviously, no stranger to the Thailand circuit and has performed super, super well across the board. So definitely someone that I think if you were pairing them in your first week of World Cup, you'd be like, okay, I gotta like really lock in for this, right? So, but going on to our next player, Johannes. So for that team, this one's a little bit more standard, I'd say. This is pretty much the team that won the Baltimore Regionals. So it is a little bit more of a standard, team that you would see in the format. Now, that being said, it doesn't mean that the team is not threatening whatsoever. It is obviously still really strong. This Amoonguss, Basket Legion, Pelipper, and Archaludon core has been all over the format. And Johannes, as well, too, has some great achievements there, right? The South Africa National Champion in 2015, World's top 64 in 2014, and the South Africa National Finalist in 2014. So obviously the achievements are from a bit ago. However, doesn't mean that you aren't still good at the game, right? So it's gonna be great. But what do you think about this team, Shona?
Honestly, this is like one of the teams I personally fear the most when playing like on the showdown ladder. As soon as I see that Archaludon and Maushold and Pelipper, that combination, especially when the Pelipper has that focus sash and just, cannot be one-hit KO'd, that's just so threatening. And if that Archaludon, it's already bulky, it already has the Assault Vest, and if you Population Bomb, not only a dangerous move that you need to be careful of, when the opponent attacks you, but the Maushold can also Population Bomb its own Archaludon and boost its defenses to the max, and then it just becomes even tougher to get rid of. And the Electroshot boosts the special attack as well. So, like, for me personally, I would be terrified going up against a team like this.
Absolutely, right? You have so many different ways you can approach the game. If you want to lean more into the Archaludon, you can opt to go for the Population Bomb, as we've seen played before, even in Baltimore Finals, how impactful it was, right? And then we've also seen the Rain Mode just being strong on its own, right? So you have so many different ways you can approach the game. You can even lead Archaludon and then lead Basket Legion and force a 50-50 of, okay, do you switch in Pelipper for Basket Legion or do you switch in Pelipper for Archaludon, right? Or, yeah, for Basket Legion or Archaludon. And then you can basically either go for Wave Crash or you can go for Electroshock. So there's a lot of cool options there. But I think we have our match ready. So we're ready to go into game one.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see what strategies both of these players are going to opt for in this game one. We are going to be watching from the perspective of Zhang Deicheng, and he is going to be leading that Kingambit and Dragapult up against, there it is, the Maushold and the Archaludon.
Yeah, so obviously this lead looks a little bit interesting for both players. However, I do think that you have a slight bit of an advantage if you are the Dragapult player. You do have the option of going for something like a Sucker Punch into the mouse hole and a Dragon Darts. The only thing that you have to be careful with is there is a potential Draco Meteor that can come into the Dragapult. If you aren't able to remove the mouse hold in time as well, the side population bomb into the Archaludon is super threatening with body press, right? So there's a couple of things you have to keep in mind here. You don't necessarily want it to go up for free. You could opt to play more passive here, but I do think you have to be really proactive in not letting the mouse hold set up the Archaludon here.
Yeah, and I think we saw the Dragapult just lock into that outrage, so it's gonna go into the mouse hold since it did opt for that follow me in this turn 1 here. No Terra yet, but a Sucker Punch that is going to fail going into that follow me, and the outrage is going to hit this mouse hold. Is it gonna be able to take that?
Wow.
No, it's just going to go down from that outrage. It is a choice band Dragapult, so known to cause a lot of damage. Dragonpult, though, is going to take that Dragapult out in return.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this is a pretty fair trade, I believe, for both players. The only thing that's a little bit scary here now is how do you break through this Archaludon, right? You have the Kingambit, you have the Rillaboom, and you have the Dondozo, as we saw in the back. There's not too many things that can actually directly pressure this Archaludon. Not to mention, if Incineroar is in the back, it's also going to be able to really get into that Rillaboom and into that Dondozo. You have to navigate around the Kingambit, of course, but it's still a tricky situation. That being said, if you can get up enough sword stances, maybe get in a circumstance where you can do enough damage to the Archaludon, that'll be good. I think right now, if you're in Johanna's position, you have to try and be proactive against this Kingambit, not allowing it to set up a sword stance so it can pressure this Archaludon.
Yeah, the Grassy Glide into the Basculegion could maybe knock it out. It depends on how both of these Pokemon are trained. But if this Kingambit gets up a sword stance, a Sucker Punch could threaten this Archaludon if it doesn't have any defense boost. But I'm pretty sure it would still survive with just a few HP, even with the Terra Dark, which this Kingambit is going to go for here. And I believe we saw John Dae-jung go for a sword stance in that second turn. But no Fake Out coming out. The Basculegion going for a Protect. Does not want to eat a Grassy Glide here, which the Rillaboom is going to go for. But straight into that Protect. And the Archaludon will be able to go next with that Body Press. No defense boosts yet, so that Kingambit is going to take that quite nicely and will be able to set up that sword stance.
Yeah, I would say it took it quite well, right? I mean, if you're on Johanna's side, you might be looking at that and being like, I kind of wish I had done more there. Kingambit now set up, has the pressure of Sucker Punching Calduff lead. This is not exactly the situation you want to be in, right? That being said, if Basculegion can survive and get damage off onto the Kingambit here, that would be a really significant turn because you can then maybe get Kingambit into range of a Body Press, in range of another attack, and we are going to see the Basculegion Terra Water here, which means it might be going for something like a Wave Crash into the Kingambit.
Yeah, it does have to respect that Sucker Punch though as well, which is why it is going to go for that Aqua Jet. Does not want to take Sucker Punch, but that Kingambit is taking that very, very well as the Grassy Glide barely misses the KO on this Basculegion. The Sucker Punch going into the Archaludon. I'm gonna say it's not gonna KO.
Oh.
I know my Kingambit calcs. I've done that turn a few times before. It always survives with just a little bit of HP, and that Body Press is gonna take that Kingambit out.
Archaludon never ceases to amaze, right? You can put it in front of some of the scariest attacks in the game, and it's always going to be able to survive on the Sliver. And now being able to get the Body Press down on the Kingambit means that even though you have your Archaludon and your Basculegion low, you do still have a Pokemon in the back that is fresh. It's ready to maybe potentially beat the Rillaboom and the Dondozo. However, Rillaboom and Dondozo are some pretty bulky Pokemon, especially because Rillaboom has this AV, and the Basculegion does still have the option of maybe working in a last respect if it can get rid of Rillaboom first, but it's a little bit of a tricky situation here for Johannes because it's like, I need to protect Basculegion. Archaludon could probably take a Grassy Glide, so maybe I need to attack and switch, but do you want to switch in what's in the back?
Yeah, and the Dondozo coming in here now. I mean, sure, Johannes' Pokemon are both low on HP, but the Dondozo, its only real attacking move here is that Liquidation. Its other moves are Fissure, Yawn, and Protect. So maybe Dae-jung might have to hope for 1 or 2 Fissure hits, but it's not really going to help against this Pelipper. That's going to be good against both of these remaining Pokemon.
Okay, Woodhammer coming out. Does it live? Ooh, okay, I mean, Archaludon is so good. Like, this is ridiculous how much it lives. But I mean, from this point now, right, you do get the ability to go for an Electro Shot here. This is going to do a ton of damage into Dondozo. It can get it low, and it might put Pelipper in a winning position here, just because you're able to do enough damage with Hurricane. That doesn't mean it's necessarily over. It really depends if Dondozo can survive this. Oh, wow,
Yeah,
it took it really
does,
easily.
does take that very, very well, as
yeah.
it goes for a yawn on that Pelipper. So Pelipper might have to switch out here and maybe come back in later. But this Archaludon still on the field, got another defense boost. And I'm again, especially after the grassy terrain recovery, I'm not sure this Rillaboom is going to be able to take out that Pokemon. After that defense boost, probably not. Do you go for a fissure into that, like, 12 HP Archaludon here, is my question.
I think more likely a Liquidation would pick it up, so you probably would throw a Liquidation in there if you were trying to get the KO. I'm kind of curious maybe if it had been better to Liquidation the previous turn because you had the Rain Boost and the Unaware to get around it, and that's why Electro Shot did so little, right? But we are going to see the Pelipper switch out here, not wanting to take the Yawn, or not wanting to False Sleep, rather. That wouldn't be great, right? You want the Pelipper to be able to pressure the Rillaboom with Hurricane. So Basculegion is going to be coming in here. Does the Woodhammer pick up? I don't think so.
No,
it
it
just takes
doesn't.
it as usual.
Archaludon, just one of the most threatening Pokemon in Regulation Age so far, just does not want to go down. Body Press doing more than half to that Rillaboom. Liquidation is going to take that Archaludon out. But the question is, do you still have the resources here to come back and, get past that Pelipper? The, Basculegion you might be able to take out, but yeah, that Pelipper is going to be a bit of a problem.
Yeah, it's really interesting here, right? Because the Dondozo actually being a really scary threat in the end. You put it in front of an Archaludon and you're like, okay, like I can Electro Shot it. And then you saw how little it did. That was very, very small damage for Electro Shot, which is such a strong move in this format. But the Unaware really just putting in work there, not caring about the boost from the special defense. I do think that in this situation, you have a bit of an advantage. You have the pressure of Grassy Glide, and at this point, Johanna's going to play around it, but it might be too little too late.
And the Grassy Glide not going into that correctly predicting and move the Hurricane will take out the Rillaboom. But if this Dondozo now went for a Liquidation into the Pelipper and is able to take it out, this may still be a win for John.
Yeah, I mean, I think a big thing there too was opting to double into the Pelipper obviously was a really strong play there, calling out the Basculegion's attack. It's going to be really close, I think, because of how little the Dondozo took from the Electro Shot. Kind of implies this terrain very specially bulky, but with the grassy terrain expiring, even if you remove Basculegion, it might just be enough with Last Respect and Hurricane to knock you out.
Right, Last Respect, it's not a choice down, but with 2 Pokemon down, that is still a lot of damage. And the Hurricane, is it going to be enough?
Yeah.
It is going to be enough to take that Dondozo out, meaning that game 1 is going to go to Johannes Bottmann. And I mean, that was way closer than I think either player would have liked it to be.
Oh yeah, I mean, in that game, there was a lot of interesting interactions there. I mean, you obviously called it out when the Archaludon was super low. It was like, is the Woodhammer even going to knock this out? And it living the Woodhammer was super impactful there. It's able to get a ton of damage off. And at that point, like, if you're committing an attack into the Archaludon, usually you want to get rid of it. Otherwise, you're just kind of burning turns, boosting its defense, and then you're not going to knock it out again the next turn, right? So it definitely was, I think, one of the most pivotal turns in the game. You weren't able to get rid of the Archaludon the turn. It was able to get more damage on the board. And Dondozo then had to focus a turn on liquidationing into it after that, right? Maybe had the Woodhammer from Rillaboom gone into the Pelipper switch and then the liquidation gone into the Archaludon, it could have been a lot better of a position for Johannes, but or not for Johannes, for Jaedong. But yeah, I think in general, it's a situation in which you have to be really aware of the Archaludon and also be really aware of the Pelipper in the back. Do you have enough resources to beat it? And I think in this case, Johannes just managed the Pelipper so well.
Yeah, it is going to be problematic in that second game as well, I think, because, Daejong's team is basically only physical attackers. The only special attacker really is that Magmar with that Overheat, but, against a Rain team, that is not going to be a reliable answer against Archaludon. And, we saw the Kingambit, it cannot one-shot that Archaludon, even with +2 Terra Dark Sucker Punch. And this is one of those situations where, maybe the Sneasel, usually that is a Sneasler, a close combat would do a lot of damage, but it is just a Sneasel, so, that might be something missing here in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, hey, Sneasel can do some damage, but maybe we'll see if in game 2 there is the adjustment. I do think Sneasel would be a really strong adjustment, but we do have game 2 ready here, so let's see what both players opted to go with.
And we are going to head into this game 2 right away. Let's see if there are some lead adjustments here for either players. It's going to be just the Archaludon Pelipper right away here for Johannes, up against the Rillaboom and Kingambit. So, you know, there is some potential here for maybe a fake-out Swords Dance setup, and maybe go for a second Swords Dance and then knock out the Archaludon. What are you thinking?
I mean, fake out Swords Dance here does look like a really strong play, right? The only thing that you have to be a little bit aware of is that if you are leaving the Archaludon alone, maybe not faking out into it, you are going to allow it to set up an Electro Shot. If you fake out into Archaludon, you're giving it a defense boost and you're opening yourself up to Weather Ball here. So I do like the play being locked here from Daejung. I think that being able to protect here, scout out what happens, U-turn, maybe reposition this turn is pretty strong. Only scary thing is you are giving Archaludon a free Electro Shot boost if it chooses to go for it.
And I actually really like the switch in here for Johannes as well. Is going to be that Amoonguss, but Rillaboom not going to go for a fake out at all. Is just going to go for that U-turn, so also allowing Daejung to switch in another Pokemon. Is going to be that Magmar this time, so we see a little bit of an adjustment here on his side. But as you just called it, it is just going to be an Electro Shot from that Archaludon. Is going to start boosting that special attack, and that means it is already a threat at this point.
It is starting to look scary. I mean, you know what happens after one Electro Shot? Another one comes out right after. So we're going to probably see this Archaludon continuously boost here. I mean, at this point, you have to try and weave in the Swords Dance maybe to try and break through the board, but it's just so scary. There's Spore Pressure. You maybe are forcing out a Follow Me if you're from Johanna's side as well. But I think a really interesting thing here is that Magmar could be trained very specially defensive, and because of Vital Spear, it completely blocks Johanna's turn if it's able to survive.
Right, and it is going to be that second Electro Shot coming out. How much is it going to do against this Magmar? It's not an Electabuzz, so it's not going to resist that. And Magmar survives, but is not going to be able to take another one. And Kingambit is going to get that Swords Dance now. But, you know, the Sucker Punch probably not going to be an option with that Amoonguss standing there threatening Rage Powders. And even if you do get the Sucker Punch, we've seen that it's not able to knock out the Archaludon.
Yeah, I mean, I do think a nice thing here at least is that even though Sucker didn't KO the Archaludon, now Kowtow Cleave is actually exerting that pressure on the Archaludon, right? So you can opt to go for just Kowtow Cleave and get rid of the Amoonguss even as well, along with the Archaludon, because both are really pressured by this attack, right? Kingambit is a very powerful Pokemon, and even if you aren't knocking out Archaludon later with Sucker Punch, maybe you put it in range for something else in the back. So I do think this is a position now where Daejung has some things that he can do to kind of work from here. Are going to see the Terra come out into the Kingambit, though.
This is going to be the Terra Dark Kingambit, my all-time favorite Pokemon in this regulation so far. Will definitely be able to knock out the Amoonguss. Magmar going to go for a Follow Me, so probably going to go down this turn as the Archaludon goes for probably another Electro Shot. But the Amoonguss is going to go for that Rage Powder to protect from any Sucker Punches. Yeah, another Electro Shot, so that's the third one already. This is the +3 Archaludon here. That's really, really scary, and yeah, so the clock is ticking here for Daejung. Magmar gonna go down, redirection has been eliminated with that, but Johannes is also gonna lose his redirection in this turn to that Kowtow Cleave from the Kingambit. So I haven't counted the rain turns yet. You know, after rain is gone, the Archaludon cannot just go for one-turn Electro Shots anymore, but doesn't really need them at this point anymore. It's already gotten so many special attack boosts.
Absolutely. At this point, I believe there should be only one turn of rain left because 3 Electro Shots went off, right? So that should imply that I believe this is the 4th turn of Electro Shot. But regardless, this is still a scary situation, right? Sneasel does come out here, so we do actually get to see the Pokemon that we were talking about early. It looks so goofy, like on the field like that, but the nice thing here is that you do get some pressure with Fake Out, right? Now, the real mind game that's going to come into play here is, does the Basculegion choose the Aqua Jet or does it choose to Wave Crash? If you call it to Aqua Jet and it goes for a Wave Crash, you're taking a lot more damage than you want. Could have been avoidable with Sucker Punch. I do think that Kowtow Cleave is probably the safer of the 2 options here, but you are going to be trading a lot of damage if Wave Crash decides to come out. Not to mention, this Archaludon with another defense boost is even scarier than it was before.
Yeah, right. It's and it's still at full HP, so you know, it's just looking even more difficult for Daejong right now. And yeah, I think he's gonna have to make some calls right now. Basque Legion is gonna go for a protect, so not gonna take any damage yet. Sneasel is gonna go for that fake out, so there is gonna be a defense boost here for that Archaludon. Is the Kingambit attacking it? No, it's gonna go for that Sucker Punch, is going to fail, and Archaludon cannot attack this turn.
You know, this actually was a pretty smart option from Johannes, especially if you were expecting the Sucker Punch or Kowtow Cleave to go into Basque Legion, right? Because now you put yourself in a situation, you basically got a free defense boost. Your Basque Legion now isn't really the target anymore, right? At this point, the Archaludon's a bit scarier, so maybe you have to prioritize it a bit more. And I think now in this situation, either Basque Legion or Archaludon is going to get big damage off. Not to mention, if Archaludon maybe is able to go for a Terrestrialization here and survive the close combat with the Sucker Punch, it could be pretty scary here. I think that it's going to be close and it might just get knocked out anyway, so it might not be worth the risk. But regardless, Basque Legion could be getting a lot of damage off here.
And honestly, I'm curious to see if this Archaludon can be taken out by a Sucker Punch and close combat here. If this were a Sneasler, I'd be pretty confident, but it isn't. It is the pre-evolution. So now I'm curious to see if there's still enough firepower behind that little Pokemon to take out this Might Pokemon. It is going to be an Aqua Jet from the Basque Legion, so no Wave Crash here. But Sneasel is going to be able to hang on thanks to that Focus Sash, of course. And are we going to see Archaludon go down here? Sucker Punch is going to come out. Will definitely not be enough damage, though. And is going to give another defense boost. It is, I mean, close combat, it's super effective. Sneasel, we believe. Oh, no!
Wow.
So close. That was definitely a roll, I would say.
Has to be the biggest menace of all time. I mean, every single attack you throw at it, it's just sitting here and surviving. Dragon Pulse does come out here, and had that been an Electro Shot, it might have been able to actually knock out the Kingambit. So opting to go for the Dragon Pulse there, potentially giving Daijong a bit of an out here. Now having your Kingambit around, obviously Aqua Jet from Basque Legion is still very real pressure, but at the very least, you do have a Kingambit to work with. You can pressure the Archaludon with close combat. You can kind of play around the Aqua Jet pressure if you think you can guess where it's going.
Yeah, I mean, Basque Legion can take out one of these Pokemon with an Aqua Jet here, but cannot take out both, obviously, and Archaludon carrying the Assault Vest means that, you know, it has to attack here, unless it wants to switch and lose all of that Electro Shot and Stamina Boost, which, you know, I mean, maybe if you're honest, you want to do that, but I would say probably not. But Sneasel is actually going to switch out here into the Rillaboom, so going to get that grassy terrain going. Might want to take out that Archaludon while you can before it recovers too much health from that if you are Daejong. But Kingambit is going to go for a Protect first.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that a really big thing here is the reposition in the Rillaboom gives you so many opportunities to obviously give yourself some outs in the game, right? Archaludon has to attack, so if it wants to not take the Sucker Punch, it has to switch, which you can read with the Kowtow Cleave. So I do think that Daijong is putting themselves in the best possible position to at least get some value here out of this Kingambit, especially with how low it is. Not to mention that if the Archaludon decides to switch out, that means the next turn now you can protect Kingambit, go for Woodhammer and the Basque Legion. This is just setting yourself up for the most routes to win the game, right? Obviously, this is still a bit of a dire situation. Kingambit is still pressured by the Aqua Jet, so you have to be really careful there. That being said, right now, it's going to be a really big decision. Do you choose the Kowtow Cleave or do you choose the Sucker Punch? What does the Archaludon do?
And the Basque Legion having gone for Terra Water means that it can, you know, be faked out here by this Rillaboom as well. So, you know, Rillaboom can easily stop this Aqua Jet and allow Kingambit to just go for a Sucker Punch into this Archaludon slot, and that would just easily take it out and, you know, get rid of that threat once and for all. We are going to see the fake out here into the Basque Legion, so no Aqua Jet. And it is going to be the Sucker Punch into the Archaludon, I'm guessing, and that is going to take that Pokemon out, and I can feel Daejong breathing a sigh of relief right there.
Oh my god, yeah, I mean, you see an Archaludon like that, you're like, oh, I have to get this right or I'm going to lose, and I think Sucker Punch is definitely the safer of the two options there, right? Had Archaludon opted to switch out, would have been a bit of a scary turn. I think it would have still been playable, but definitely scarier. Now it's going to be the Pelipper coming in. That being said, Aqua Jet is still doing a lot, and it's going to be able to knock out this Kingambit. You can also choose, if you expect the Kingambit to protect, to double into the Rillaboom to put it into range of Hurricane if you were to Aqua Jet and Hurricane into it, or Wave Crash and Hurricane into it. Wave Crash may be a bit more riskier because of Grassy Glide, putting you into range of maybe knocking yourself out with recoil here. You could even last respects as well. It's a very strong option here. So it's going to be interesting to see. I do feel like pressuring the Rillaboom here could be the correct route to go because the Kingambit is so threatened by Aqua Jet.
No protect
Oh,
coming out
wow.
though. That Basculegion is just going to go down from that Grassy Glide from the Rillaboom. So I believe now it is only Pelipper left here for Johannes, which, you know, can go for something like a hairpin, but is going to have to take the Sucker Punch first. It does have the Focus Sash, so will be able to take at least one hit. Critical hit here not mattering at all. And yeah, I mean, you can go for a Hurricane into this Rillaboom. Not going to be able to quite knock it out. And, you know, at this point, this Pelipper is going to go down to either a Grassy Glide or a Sucker Punch. So yeah, it looks like we are going to have a Game 3.
Yeah, I mean, a big thing here, right, was how the Kingambit was able to get that attack off. You know, you look at that decision to click Dragon Pulse versus Electro Shot at first, doesn't seem really impactful, but then you realize, wait, had that been Electro Shot, it would have just immediately have gotten rid of the Archaludon, or not Archaludon, of the Kingambit, and the Kingambit was what was able to win that game in the end. I do feel like a big thing that has to happen going into this Game 3, maybe putting a little bit more respect on Kingambit. Obviously, Archaludon starts out the game, it's coming out swinging, it's looking really strong across the board. You're like, oh man, how do you get rid of this? Kingambit able to get one Swords Dance up, and it's just given one turn to survive, and it just took over the rest of the game. And I feel like that was just such an excellent showing from Zhaidong. I mean, being able to put yourself in a position where you're able to come back from such a deficit early on, I felt like that was really excellently played. Bringing in the Rillaboom, giving yourself the option of that Sucker versus Kowtow mind game versus the Archaludon, and just from there, just playing great.
Yeah, I think in that turn, as you've mentioned before, had that been an Electro Shot and the Kingambit had gone down, that probably would have been game 4, Johannes. But then Daejang really just taking advantage of that misplay and then just turning that game around to, you know, still win it is really just goes to show that, you know, you do have to respect, you know, Pokemon like Kingambit to, you know, like you've said before, had he just taken it out, probably would have been game.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's the thing though, right? Is sometimes, you know, you may be making a miscalculation. You're like, okay, well, what if like Rillaboom comes in for the Kingambit? I want to cover for it with the Dragon Pulse, right? And then it ends up surviving. You're like, okay, maybe I should have just Electro Shot it into the Kingambit. And the thing is like that kind of, you know, obviously calculation too really depends on how the Archaludon is trained, how the Kingambit is trained. And I think the big difference maker there too was having Dragon Pulse over Draco Meteor, right? Had it been a Draco Meteor, obviously, definitely would have gotten rid of it. And maybe you would have even opted to go for Electro Shock because you had a chance of missing Draco Meteor. But because it was Dragon Pulse, obviously a bit weaker in base power and was just, you know, Kingambit was just able to survive and convert that. But we are ready for our Game 3, so I'm really curious to see the adjustments coming out here. Maybe Sneasler, or not Sneasler,
Maybe.
Sneasel. Yeah.
Sneasler, they sound so similar, so yeah, I might get that mixed up a few times as well, but maybe we will see it in this Game 3. You know, it did not quite get the KO on the Archaludon, but it still, you know, it did help Daejang get that second win. So we might see it again, but it is going to be the Maushold and Archaludon lead once again for Johannes, going up against Dragapult and Sneasel this time. There it is.
Yeah, I mean, this position is really interesting, right? Because you do have a lot of pressure with the close combat and the Outrage. You can just throw an Outrage immediately into Maushold if it connects and just get rid of it. If Outrage and close combat go into Archaludon, unless you're terrestrializing there, it might just be able to knock out, but you can't even be too sure anymore, right? We saw the Archaludon live the double up of the Terra Dark Sucker Punch at +2, and then being able to live the close combat. So this Arch might just be able to survive. I do think that the nice thing I like about this position for Daejang is that you are putting on a lot more pressure. And close combat is going out first.
Oh my god, that is a lot of damage on that Archaludon right away with that close combat. Archaludon is going to get that stamina boost. This Maushold, of course, it has the Technician ability, so no Friend Guard, and the Outrage will just take it out. So that's a huge turn 1 there for Daejang, just taking out that Maushold and dealing so much damage to the Archaludon. And the Dragapult, it actually hangs on this time with just 8 HP. That Dragapult not being enough to knock it out means that Johannes does need to respect this Outrage. So, you know, the Dragapult is locked into it. Of course, the Basculegion could just go for an Aqua Jet, but, you know, you do need to waste a turn to get rid of it.
I mean, such an incredible part of that turn, too, is that a Sneasel actually outsped Dragapult. which means that Archaludon, if it had gotten hit by Outrage, wouldn't have been able to get the stamina boost. Not that it probably would have mattered because of the double up, but it allows Sneasel to be faster than Dragapult with coaching. But because the Dragapult is slower, it means it was bulky enough to survive the Dragon Pulse. So kind of gives a little bit of a hint of how the Pokemon are trained. That's actually a really cool interaction that maybe you wouldn't have expected going into this. But obviously the Aqua Jet exerting a lot of pressure on the Dragapult here. We are going to see the Archaludon switching to the Pelipper. It's probably just going to be an Aqua Jet to guarantee that the Dragapult goes down. Maybe you go for Last Suspects? Yeah, that's fine too, because you just get strong damage off and it covers first switch.
Yeah, with the Swift Swim boost, the Basculegion will easily be able to outspeed, and a Gunk Shot coming out here for the Sneasler is not gonna put it to sleep, but will poison it. No Dire Claws in this game. We might see some later, but not quite yet. Is that poison going to matter, is my question right now. I mean, Rillaboom, is threatening this Basculegion, with that Grassy Glide would definitely be enough to knock it out either way. But, as a Rillaboom on the field, you do need to respect Hurricanes from the Pelipper.
Oh, I mean, if you're Johannes here, it's looking a little bit suspicious, right? The Grassy Glide putting on a ton of pressure on Basculegion. From that range, absolutely being able to knock it out. Potentially being able to double Pelipper as well to get rid of it. There's just so many options here that are threatening damage, and I mean, yeah, in that turn, it was just so impactful being able to get the Last Respects off on the Dragon to remove it, but at that point, it might be a little too late because you're letting in Rillaboom for free. Archaludon coming back in, though.
Pelipper going for a Protect. Is this Archaludon going to live through this turn? Rillaboom gonna go for that Grassy Glide into the Pelipper. What is Sneasler going to go for here? Are we gonna see a close combat? No, it is just going to be a Gunk Shot into the protecting Pelipper. So Archaludon gets a free switch in here.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, though, is even though you get an Archaludon here, right, it's a full health Rillaboom. It can take a Hurricane from Pelipper. Sneasel has a Focus Sash still. It doesn't really feel like there's too many ways for Archaludon Pelipper to be able to break through this in time, right? Maybe if you're able to get a Hurricane on the Sneasel, then be able to get an Aqua Jet in here, that can be pretty significant. But you are going to have to lose your Archaludon here and go down the Sash on your Pelipper. So this is looking really scary, I think, if you're on Johanna's side. You just traded so many resources, and that turn one loss of Mousehold and losing some health and Arch is really coming here to hurt or save.
Hurricane dealing a good amount of damage and will confuse this Rillaboom. So if it does hit itself and Pelipper keeps its Focus Sash, could matter here, but it is going to go through that Wood Hammer onto that Pelipper, bringing it down to its Focus Sash. And now Johannes is just really completely out of resources, only has that Basculegion left in the back. This Pelipper 1 HP, and it's not going to be able to, take anything at this point, but the Rillaboom being so low means that might go down to an Aqua Jet in the rain, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, at this point too, it's like you can Aqua Jet the Rillaboom, but the Sneasel is such a threat with the Focus Sash. It can sit here. The only thing that you can really rely on maybe is Gunk Shot missing, but you could also lock into something like a close combat if you wanted to avoid missing, but Rillaboom, will it get confused?
And it does get through. That Grassy Glide KOing that Basculegion, and I think the Sneasler will just take out that Pelipper with a close combat. I think if you're Johannes at that point, you just have to hope for a confusion to, self it. Actually gonna be a Gunk Shot, okay, even if that would have missed, probably wouldn't have mattered at this point. And yeah, a very, very strong game 3 there from Daejun. That was fast compared to the first two games.